What's up YouTube, it's the guy who only plays Virtual World and only posts Virtual World deck profiles, coming at you with a Virtual World deck profile, yay! So jokes aside, this deck is still really good this format. I took it to locals last week. I went undefeated 5-0. I think I played, if I remember correctly, Mech Knights, this is not in order, Tri-Brigade Lyralisk, PK Orcust, Heroes, and Invoked Dogmatica Shadows. Yeah, I think that's correct. I think I dropped maybe 1 or 2 games, and the deck just performed really well in all my games, as it has done in testing online, because it's a great deck, as it always has been really. So without further ado, let's get into this deck profile. So I'll keep this video fairly quick, because I'd like to, I think a lot of people are aware of the ratios, what this deck does, and how it's meant to be played. If you want to see a more in-depth video about this deck and how we're playing it this format, I will be posting a further combo tutorial video later, I suppose maybe this week, so stay tuned for that. So let's go straight into the monster lineup. I mean, this is standard. We play the 3 Lulu, very happy about the rarity buffs, 3 Gigi, 3 Lao, 3 Kirin, and then yeah, this I guess is the slightly less standard ratio, although I think a lot of people are still opting, but I do play the 2 Neon, 1 Tutu. The reason for that is simply that we are playing the Zorkin package in this deck, with Tutu being a free level 6, that is essentially halfway to Zorkin, and it lets you kind of play around Lancia, although Lancia is still very strong against this deck. So if you don't know what these do, you really need to learn what they do, because the deck is very good. I did have quite a lot of people at locals every now and then stop me to ask what these cards do. In fact, if you are playing Virtual World, be aware if anybody ever asks you what any of these cards do, and specifically starts to target things like, does this resolve on summon? Does this resolve in hand? That's usually a tell that they have something like Ash, or sorry, not Ash, Vela or Imperm, and they want to check if they can negate the effect of the Virtual World once summoned. So that's just a neat thing to know. Then we play the Called By. I'm still not unsure about playing Crossout Designator in this deck. I really want to keep it as a 40 card main. I think it's very consistent this way, or it has been so far. I mean, the percentage and calculations check out with like first hand ratios, and I don't know, I feel like having more extenders is the best way of playing through hand traps in this deck, as opposed to just playing loads of one-offs. Yeah, sure, maybe games 2 Crossout versus Lancia is nice, but the Called By served me well. Then we play the 2 Honorary Virtual Worlds. Yep, Konami just thought Itelli was not good enough at 1. Whatever, we just get more extenders, card's great. And then 3 Pot of Greed, because we basically only played 3 of, so there's no time where this card is bad. Literally, if you draw into 2 Desires, that's still insane. You need fodder in hand to just discard for your Qinglongs, etc. And you also need cards to set to trigger your Zorkin, which also sometimes comes up with Desires. So that's it for the, I guess, engine part of the deck, or other than a couple other things. Moving on to the hand traps I played the 3 Ash, probably the MVP of the hand trap package, 3 Gamma. This card came up and was so good. Clearing monsters was just crazy good. I can't stress this enough. Gamma's just insane in this deck, and going first you can do some silly things where you have like Stardust Charge Warrior and a Gamma, so you can actually hard synchro into Crystal, which is quite funny. Didn't come up, but just so you know. Ash generic, great. Level 3 Tuner can come up, didn't come up for me last weekend, but it has done in testing. Imperm, very good. It's decent in the mirror match, because you can hit the Zorkin. The main reason I play Imperm is because I want an extra card that I can set to trigger Zorkin, which is also live when I set it. I don't just want to have to set random stuff just to trigger Zorkin. Setting the Imperm is actually quite high value, and it's also a very good hand trap in matchups like versus Tri-Brigade, versus pretty much any rogue combo. So yeah. That's the hand trap lineup, keeping it to 9, 10 if you count the go-to driver. And then for the last few cards in the deck, we play, I mean, this again, standard ratios, 3 Kowloon, 3 Qinglong, 2 Chuchi, and 1 Zhuanwu. Shame we didn't get a rarity upgrade for Zhuanwu, but I guess that makes sense, seeing as it didn't come out in a 2020 set. So, about this, I mean, again, very standard. I think in my last list I did, which was almost in January, I was playing the 3 Chuchi, 1 Zhuanwu. I've cut that down to just this ratio because it's much less bricky, much more consistent, and honestly, Even if you do banish both Chuchi and you want to get it back, because Chuchi is a very, very key component of this deck, you always have Nian to do that, so I don't see an issue there. Qinglong, goated, search card, also extremely relevant on field. A reason being is that we do play the Kaliga lock, and some people always wonder, like, okay, sure, you've made Kaliga, you've made your Crystal Wing, but how are you winning turn 3? And the answer really lies with these two cards, because I can turn off my Kaliga whenever I want, or pop it whenever I want. I have other means of doing that, and that's why the lock works so well within this deck, and why, honestly, I prefer it to Dragoon. But we'll get on to other texts about the extra deck in a moment. So that's it for the main deck lineup. Is there anything I'd like to change? I think the only thing I'm thinking about quite a lot at the moment is how, if I want to implement Phoenix Enforcer when it does come out. The card is very, very good. Again, the popping stuff on your field does synergize with Kaliga and a lot of other stuff. I think I'll think about it more when we get there, because at the moment the main deck is very tight and I really like the lineup as it is. Moving on to the extra deck, I play actually just the 2 level 9s. This has changed a lot from the last time I did a deck profile. Reason being is that Very Fun Dragon is banned. We just don't need that many rank 9s anymore. And this essentially led me to cut out a lot of other level 9s. I cut Cloud Castle, I cut Arch this. This card exists, I don't play it. I cut Phantom Fortress. I'll put these aside because these aren't actually in my current 15 card extra deck. I'll just discuss these real quick. Cloud Castle. If you're not going to VFD, this card's not great. Phantom Fortress, I think, has a better alternative, which I'll get to in a second. Crocodragon, again, drawing a card is nice, but if it's just a dead level 9, sure, you have this pop on quick effect. It's just not insane. And Wolfrayet, I feel like, is just a bad Nibiru. If you want to do the combo ending on like a live Wolfrayet, that forces you to summon this quite early and walk into Nibiru yourself, so I don't particularly like it. But I think it is something interesting that you can, by all means, try out yourself. Then moving on to the level 6 engine, we play the 1 Juju, 1 Coral, 1 Stardust Charge. Honestly, these are the monsters you'll be going into most. Definitely the stuff I went into most. Juju card's goated, probably one of my favorite. I go into this all the time. Sends a card, it does target, but it's still a very nice way of getting around destruction effects. It also can come up in your mainline combo if you need something to target to continue climbing. Coral Dragon Stardust Charge, I just love these cards. I make them all the time going fast. They're the 2 alternatives I usually use to climb into Zulkin. Both of them net me a draw. Both of them are also great going second. Coral Dragon is discard to target and destroy. Stardust Charge is crazy because a lot of people don't even know that it has an effect that reads, this card can attack all special summon monsters your opponent controls once each, and that paired with the beautiful Utopia Beyond essentially sets up for an extremely easy OTK versus big boards. So that's it for these. Then moving on to the Zulkin package as discussed. Yeah, I play the 1 Zulkin, 1 Crystal Wing, 1 Muddy Mud, and 1 Kaliga. This package I think is the best to play. You can even not play the Kaliga. I have seen some lists that don't and just play more tech in the extra deck, because sometimes even just Shen, Crystal Wing, Chuchi is enough. I mean, if played correctly, that's a hell of a disruption. I just like this because going into heavy combo decks like Drytron, which I actually didn't play this weekend, but whatever, this comes up a lot more. This lock is extremely hard to out. Some people didn't even know what I was doing when I summoned Muddy Mud Dragon, and then they saw these 2 cards, and then they read Kaliga real quick and went, and then just scooped 1 game 2 because it's extremely difficult out. Why do I play Kaliga over Dragoon? Oftentimes, I'll end my turn 1 with 1 card in hand, and usually that 1 card is what I add in end phase with GG, and I really want to keep that card in hand because it sets up my turn 3, so I can end the game as fast as possible. I don't want to keep grinding against decks. I have very easy OTK routes, so I want to access them ASAP. If I'm using Dragoon, that forces me to discard that card, and that's just not great. Also, the Dragoon doesn't get the pops because it wasn't summoned sending normal monsters, so it's not even that good going into turn 3. So that's it for this little package. Lastly, we have just a lot of Xyzes. These are just tech cards, which are great, and honestly, they come up all the time. 1 Breaksword, 1 Gossip Shadow, 1 Utopia Beyond, I've already discussed this, 1 Fan, 1 M7. Right, Breaksword, going second, pop a card, going to Zeus, very nice. Gossip Shadow can come up going first if you just have that much material to play with. Make it early if you can't access Zorkin on the 4th summon. Honestly, I don't use it much otherwise. It has come up once in testing, just in the late game, as an option to break sword, and that was great. Fan, this is my option to enter Blathmere. I find it essentially does the same thing, gets rid of sticky cards in grave. M7, cards goated. If you don't know, the best way to make people quit the game, especially against Tri-Brigade players and Drytron players in Game 3, is to go M7, add back your hand trap of choice, and then just continue being sacky for the rest of the duel, because some decks can't play through certain hand traps, full stop, and M7 lets you cycle them back. It also lets you recycle your virtual pieces late game and let you set up easy OTKs. Also lets you remove cards in graveyard just like Fan, and another reason why I dropped Phantom Fortress. Last card in the extra deck, pretty straightforward, 1 Zeus. How can you not play this card? Card's just insane against all trap decks, and no discussion. Moving on to the side deck, this is exactly what I played. 3 Nibiru, never sided it to be honest. I just didn't have matchups against very heavy combo where I felt like I needed to. 3 Lancia, sided this against the Tri-Brigade and against the PK Orcust. Drew against PK Orcust and they just couldn't combo through it. Didn't see against Lyris Tri-Brigade, but that didn't really matter. 3 draw, as I said, I didn't come up against Drytron, so this was largely irrelevant. Still highly suggest playing both Nib and draw, even though I personally didn't side them in because they do come up against lots of matchups. That's it for those 9 cards, and then lastly, for the last 6, 1 Pank, card still insane going second. Did side this quite a lot, did see it quite a lot, funnily enough, and it was nice. 2 Twisters, 2 Storm, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. This package essentially is for back row decks. Yeah, I do have a lot of ways of outing back row in like 8 different extra deck means of popping cards, but having these is just quicker and a safer bet quite a lot of the time. Finally, in one game, I sided Lightning Storm against the Lyralist player because I figured their end board doesn't really end on Spell Trap Negation, and yeah, I was right. I don't know for which reason I had a Neon on board. I think this was like turn 5. Anyway, I went battle phase, crashed my Neon into like his Simorg. He was really confused. I went main phase 2, Lightning Storm, wiped his board, and then comboed for game. I say combo for game, but I set up the Kaliga lock, which you couldn't out. I'm going to quickly go over some options you can play in the extra deck, because I am aware that there are loads with this deck. Dragonlack Pyron. Card's nifty. You can summon things like Fossil Diner and other Saki normal summons by sending them and then summoning them in your opponent's standby. Viable, but I prefer a safer Crystal Wing. Gaia, extra material for Zeus. And then lastly, I think this is the more viable package option to the Kaliga Crystal Lock. And I'll just discuss it real quick. It essentially doesn't change anything of the mainline combo. Just instead of summoning Crystal, you summon Buster Dragon. And instead of fusioning summoning Kaliga, you summon Buster Blader. You can also make the optional Beatrice to ensure that you send, your favorite card, Buster Dragon, Destruction Sword, or whatever it's called, to the graveyard so that in your opponent's turn, on quick effect, Buster Dragon allows you to equip this to your Buster Blader, enabling a very nasty lock, to be honest. This lock consists of all your opponent's monsters become dragon, or dragon monsters are put into defense position and cannot activate their effects. And yeah, you know what this card does. So yeah, I didn't play this specifically because the Crystal Wing lock, if you played correctly, lets you play around Nibiru and a lot of other hand traps if you make it early. And you can also save some of your other virtual names for in some hands after the Crystal Wing and summon, which is great. So that's it for the YouTube video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions about the deck and how to play it, I am aware there might be some new players who are looking into it now that it's even cheaper given the reprints and the Megatins. Please do let me know that in the comments, and stay tuned for the follow-up video where I'll be discussing further combos. Thank you for watching.